Welcome to Global Insider Talks. I'm very excited to be with Rubby Golo today from Accra, Ghana. She is founder and CEO of Global Trade Consult, a Ghanaian-based firm that supports foreign companies working in Ghana. Welcome, Rubby.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Thanks for being with us. For years, Rubby has worked as an international trade and investment expert in Ghana and has vast experience helping companies expand into Ghana and other parts of Africa. Previously, she worked for the UK Department of International Trade in Ghana. We're speaking to Rubby today because we often hear from our clients and constituents that they're often quite nervous about expanding to Africa in general, and don't know how to approach it. They're worried about the risks. They're worried about the return on their investment. They're worried about the return of their investment. And we're joining Rubby in a market where today inflation rates are just under 40%, which isn't at face value sound very compelling for foreign investors to perhaps invest in Ghana. So we're going to start off there, Rubby, and I'm going to ask you maybe if you can set the scene and give some advice for these foreign investors who are quite nervous about investing in Africa.
Thank you, Jeff. Africa is a huge continent. We do have 54 countries. And there are lots of opportunities for foreign companies to expand into Africa. We do have a lot of sectors that are booming, but for the sake of this interview, I will just highlight two, which is the agriculture sector and the fintech industry. For agriculture, we do have farmlands that comprise about 40% of the continent's land is available for farming. And we do have the weather for most crops. We do have the labor as well. In fact, 60% of Africa's youth are under the age of 25. So we do have what it takes when people are looking to find a continent that has the people. And apart from that, we are very friendly and open, and opportunities do exist. And so whoever is interested in Africa, this is the time. Many people are sitting on the fence and others have taken advantage. But I want to say that for those who have not yet decided, this is the time. If they want to partake part of the cake.
So this is the idea that in any crisis there's an opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
And in some ways you could say that the Ghanaian economy is in a bit of a crisis with inflation rates. I mean, inflation around the world obviously is rising, but that there are opportunities. And you mentioned previously in agriculture, it's not just farming, but it's everything, that all the services and the equipment that goes into the industry. There's a real demand there for investment from foreign investors. You touched on the youth labor force, and I'll tell you, I recently attended a conference in New York City regarding the energy sector in Africa and learned and was astounded that in 10 years, the majority of the world's labor force will be on the African continent. And if companies are not right now planning for 10 years, which is not long from now, their strategy for Africa, they may be behind the curve when that becomes a reality. What do you have to say to that?
I think that this is the time for anyone looking to Africa to take action. And my advice would be for them to, first of all, conduct a market research. To be able to see whether the markets they are looking to go into is the right one, and whether their products and services will be well received. And using this market research will also help them to plan their strategy, to see what they will use as the entry point. It could be they are thinking of establishing as 100% foreign owned, there are opportunities for them to work with locals under the joint ventureship agreement as well. Or in fact, looking out for to appoint country representatives that they can work with in the market.
Rubby, yeah, that's helpful. I mean, you've basically explained the different ways a foreign investor can come in and have a presence in Africa, in Ghana in particular. In your experience with your clients right now that are coming into the market, I understand there are a lot of government incentives for foreign investors. Could you speak just briefly on that point?
So depending on the sectors that are of interest for these foreign companies, there are various incentives available, and we do have government agencies. To speak for Ghana, we have the Ghana Investment Promotion Authority Center that actually provide those incentives. So depending on which sector you want to operate in, it comes with various incentive percentages, whether on machinery, tools, etc. And I'll be happy to provide more details when I'm contacted, but it is available on their website as well that people can go and read and research on.
I thank you for that. I mean, I think that's in general, many of the African governments are offering pretty lucrative incentives for foreign investors to come, and they understand that there's risk involved, but that the market research that you talked about, having the in-country local experts and partners mitigate that risk, and in some ways. It's similar in other markets around the world. When you enter, having those things in place help you mitigate your risk. And then obviously the research that drives your strategy, your roadmap, will help you have a more seamless entry into a new market. You mentioned to me another hot sector in Ghana and in Africa in general, and which one was that, Rubby?
That is fintech. So we are looking for payment solutions and systems that can work for cross-border trade. We are looking for money remittance solutions as well. And mobile money services, for instance, is huge in Africa. When you look at what is happening in Kenya and even in Ghana, there's a lot of business transactions in that space. So anyone with this kind of solutions, this is the time to come to Ghana and indeed Africa.
Great. So two sectors off the bat. We know agriculture, fintech. We know the energy sector is growing. So those are some fast growing sectors to explore for foreign investors. Let's go back to market research for a minute. And I want to say that, we often hear, I need an Asia strategy, or I need a European strategy, or I need an Africa strategy. And we know that doesn't really exist, right? There's a Ghanaian strategy. So for instance, a Moroccan strategy is going to be very, very different from a South African strategy because of so many differences that are in those markets. Maybe you could speak to that.
I think first of all, foreign companies need to understand the value of conducting market research. As a business owner, my experience has been that we get a lot of European countries, most especially the UK, they do value market research and they are ready to pay for it. But I'm yet to actually experience working with US firms, for instance. Most of the time, they are reluctant to pay for these services. And to tell you what, it's the best path to take, because it helps you reduce the risk. It gives you an idea of how you can strategize to penetrate the particular country you want to operate in. So for me, market research is the first thing on your list if you are looking to come to Africa. And if you seek for help, you can contact consultancies such as mine, or you can go through the route of, getting in touch with trade association or local chamber of commerce that are able to kind of help you through the journey.
That's great advice, and obviously our firm, Factum Global, one of our services is market research as well, and it's something that we really emphasize with our clients who are looking into a new market, that without the proper data to back up your strategy, going into a new market is too risky with just on gut instincts alone. It's not enough. So we're running out of time here a little bit, but I want to know if you can give us some specific examples, not their names or anything, but of companies or partners that you're working with, and what parts of the world are they coming from into Ghana or other markets in Africa? Where are they going, and what sectors are they in? Are they in these sectors that we talked about?
Okay. And so for us, we get to work with quite a number of UK companies and European companies from Germany, Portugal, Spain, etc. We haven't seen much work with US firms, and it's an area that we really want to work on because we believe there's a lot of opportunities here for them. We're getting a lot of people with appetite to set up call centers, for instance, in Ghana. A lot more people are bringing in healthcare services and products. We're seeing a lot of people in the renewable energy space as well. And of course, agriculture, we see a lot of people bringing in equipment, tools, and other packaging solutions to add value to our local produce so that they can package and send them out as well. So those are some of the areas that are quite booming at the moment. Of course, there are other opportunities. If people have particular interests, we'll be happy to look into them and give them the advice.
Sure, but thank you for that, because that gives some real, tangible examples of how, in this case, European companies are expanding into your market. Last question. We're on this we hope, the tail end of the global pandemic here. How has Ghana fared, and are you guys back to normal now?
In terms of business, normal life, we are back. Just that we are experiencing economic downturn at the moment. Like you mentioned, inflation is more than 30%, making goods and services very expensive. A lot more businesses are struggling. And so government actually has gone to IMF for bailout. Not sure whether that will happen before the end of the year, but we are still hopeful that things can turn around for us pretty soon.
And with any crisis, there's opportunity, and maybe we'll leave it with that. Rubby, thank you for your time. I greatly appreciate it. Always love to see you. And thank you all for joining us. For more about our Global Insider Talks interview series and more information about our internationalization services, please visit factumglobal.com. Thank you.